Hey guys, welcome to another lesson of JavaScript from introduction to application. Today, we will try to put most of the things we learned together by developing a simple application. So this application right here is what we're going to develop today. So what it does is pretty simple. You enter a product name here, I can call it item 1, and I put a price here. It's going to be a number, and I add it. So once I add, it removes it from the input box and it adds it to the list, and it gives me the total of the item. I can add another item to it. I can say orange, and it's going to be $5, and I can add it to it. If I do apple and I put something here that is not a number, I get out there, it gives me an error message, says enter a valid number, and it removes that value that I just entered. So I say okay, I come back here and I can put the right amount, say 67. I do that. So it goes through all these, it gives me the total, and I can actually come here and remove the element that I don't want on the list. I can say I want to remove this orange. I do that and it removes the orange for me and it gives me the total. I remove the item 1, I have only apple left, and it gives me the total of 67. So this is what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to walk you through how you can develop an application like this. Well, we're going to start with a blank slate. So this one is just a template right here. It doesn't do anything. You put a value, you put anything here, you add it. It's not doing anything yet. So we have to go and add the code. But I would like to show you my HTML and CSS. So this is my HTML right here. This is the body. We have all this container, and eventually we will have our total value is going to be displayed here, and the list is actually an ordered list, and the lists are going to be here. So that's what I have as my HTML. It's very basic, nothing complex. And the style, I have this as my style. I have the body, I have all that, this. So here is my style, and I don't know if you can follow this or if you want to write your own style, but this is just the style that I'm using to have that displayed on the screen the way it is. Alright, so the first functionality I would like us to focus on is the one that validates the number, the one that checks if it's a valid number or not. So how do we do that? We want to make sure that if a user enters a value that is not a valid numeric value, we should tell them that that number is not valid and they should try to enter a valid number. So to do that, we go to the input. So we have this is the p price. That's the ID of the element that displays that you put the price in. So here we can say onChange. So what onChange does is that when the value in the box changes, then it can call whatever function that we put here. So onChange, I'm going to show you another one like onClick. onClick is when you click on it, or on mouse over when you put your mouse over it, or on key down. There are so many of them. If you want to be familiar with those events, they call them, these are the events on your DOM. You might want to go just browse, search on them, research on them, you find a bunch of them. But today we're using this onChange. onChange means is the value in that box or in the input changes, then run this code. So the code that we're going to be running is called a validate number. So we haven't written that code yet. We're going to write it now. So validate number, and I'm going to pass this to it. So what this is kind of like I'm passing this input box into the validate number function. So that way I can capture the value of the input box and then run some validation on it. So now let's go ahead and write the function that's going to do that. And the function, we can just come here between our script. Remember how to write a function? Just do function, put a name on it, the number, and it takes an input, which is going to be the element. So I'm just going to use E to represent element. That's the input element that has the value. So what I'm going to do is create a variable, say value. I'm using val as value, and I'm gonna do e dot value. E is the element, that's the p price element, the input element, and I'm capturing the value, this value that is in the element. I'm capturing it here. But one thing I want to do is to convert the value into a number. So I'm going to do this number. And remember, if the value here is not a valid number, I'm not going to get a number here. So we make sure this is a valid number. And whatever you get from the DOM, from your HTML here, the value people enter is going to be a string. So you want to convert a string to a number. So right now we have a string, try to convert a string to number. And one thing we want to do, we want to check if it's a valid number. If it's a valid number, then that's good. But if it's not, then we have to tell the user that there's a problem. So I'm going to do if val dot to string. I'm converting the value back to string. After I try to convert it to number, the value I convert it to string. If the value is equal to NaN in JavaScript stands for not a number. So if it is not a number, then you tell the user. So how to prompt an alert in JavaScript is just use the word alert. That's how you send a message to the user. Say alert, and it's going to prompt something up on the screen, and tell them that enter a valid number. So that's what we want to tell the user. And again, if we do this, we want to make sure that if that number is not valid, we remove it from the screen so they don't have to worry about deleting it. So we delete it for them. So what we can do is just say e.value. So the value of that element, we make it an empty string. So pretty much we're kind of removing it. So we make it something else. And we save it. Let's go back to the screen and see what we get. So I'm going to refresh my screen. And I type 23, I click, nothing happens. If I put 23 ER and see what we get, enter a valid number and see the price has been removed. So the next thing we want to do is to make sure that we are capturing the value entered by the user. So if a user puts a value here, we're trying to capture the value and store it somewhere. So what we're going to do now is to store the values in an array. So we capture as the users, as the user is entering values, we're capturing every value and we're storing it up in an array. So let's see how that is done. What I'm going to do here is create a global variable here, say variable product, and I make it an empty array. So it has nothing in it, and this is going to be the array that's going to store our product. And now I can create a function that does the storing, that's going to capture the results and store it in this array. So let me call that function add product. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I get the name of the product the user entered. So I do variable p name, that's the product name. And I'm going to do my document dot get element by ID. So the ID of the input is p name, and I'm capturing that value. So using document.get element by ID captures that element for you, and you put a value here. And I can do variable p value is going to be document.get element by ID, and that value p price. And I capture the value. But remember, we're trying to find a number, so this one is going to give me a string for the p-value. So I'll try to convert it to a number here. So I'm kind of relying on the fact that I'm doing a validation that it's already confirmed that it's a number. If it's not a number, it's already wiped out. So what I'm getting now is a number. So I have a p name and I have a p value. So let me create a JSON for product, which is going to be like that, color braces, and the name of the product is going to be p name, and the value of the product, which is going to be the price of the product, is going to be p value. So now I have this JSON captured from the screen, and I can just put this value in the product and can say product dot push. That's how you add elements into an array, and I add product into it. So this is the product, and we are pushing this value into it. But don't forget, we haven't tied this add product to anything yet. So if you run the code, nothing is going to happen. So what we want to do now is to make sure that this is tied to a particular process or event. And what we want to do is to add the event to the button. So we just come here and do on click. So when you click the button, so that should happen. So the product add product will come here and put it here. So once you click the button, it does this for you. But you see, we haven't even shown it. Now we're not showing anything on the screen. So one thing we can do before we show things on the screen, just to know that everything is working fine, is to actually do console.log. So when you log like this, you log in like you're writing this on the console, like we did, when we first started this series. So we have this console.log, and I'm putting the product into it. So this product is going to be shown on the console. So it displays this product on the console. So that way I know how my product is growing. When users are adding to it, I know what is happening to my product array. So let's go back on the screen and try to run this and see what we get. I refresh my screen. Like I said, nothing is going to happen here. So one thing you want to do is to pop up your console. Do inspect element, and it shows you the screen, and you can go on the console. I'm going to minimize this so at least we can see our button. And so what you want us to look at is here, and we see what's going to come here as we click in on the button. So now I'm going to do say orange, and I put a value here 56, and I add, and you see what happens here. We have an object here, and it's an array. So when you open it, it shows you an object, and you see the orange name is orange, and the price is 56. And I can change this value to item 2, and I'm going to change the value to 1,000, and I'm going to add to it. And let's collapse this. So once I clicked, this second one popped up, and now this one has 2 items in it, and it has index of 0. That's the first one we added, which is orange and 56, and the second one is item 2 and 1,000 as a price. So another thing we should try to do is to remove these values once you click on add product. There's no point. You have to go back and delete them yourself. So let's make sure that the computer is doing that for us, so our users don't have to worry about that. To do that is just to create a function. I'm going to create a function here that's going to do clear input. So that does the clear input for us, and it's just these values. So I'm doing document.getElement by ID. P name is a product name. The value, I set the value to an empty string. So that means it removes that. And the document.getElement by ID, I'm getting the price, product price, and I'm setting the value to an empty string. And this is a function that nobody is calling it. If you don't call your function, nothing is going to happen. So I'm going to call the function right here. I'm going to call the function here and say clear input, like that. So once I call add product is going to do all this, and after that it calls the clear input. So and it's going to clear the input. Let's see how that works. So I'm going to refresh my screen. You refresh and everything is gone. And what I want to do now is just to say banana, and the price of banana is 5, and I say add, and let's go. You see, banana is removed, the price is removed, and we have our product stored in the array. That's exactly what we wanted. Remember that our goal is to actually display this product on this area instead of having them just stored up in an array that no one can see. We want to be able to see our product on the screen, and that's the goal. So how do we do that? To do that, let's create a function that is going to do that for us. So I'm going to call the function display product. So I can just come here and say function display product. And if you remember, there are 2 parts to this display. One part is going to display all the items, it's going to list them out, and the other part is going to display the sum. So now let's just concentrate on displaying the product instead of, later we'll do the sum or the total. So now we're going to have a variable called this text, so it's like display text, and now it doesn't have anything in it. It has an empty string in it. What I want to do is to go through the list of products. I go through the list of the product one by one, and I add them to this display text. So what I'm going to do is use our for loop that we learned last time. So for variable I is equal to 0, I less than product dot length I plus plus. So now we have this text plus equals. Don't forget, this is going to be in a list, so it's going to be like that. So okay, that's a list, and I'm going to try to close the list here, and in the middle, then we can put whatever we want to put, and which is going to be, try to put a product name. So to get a product name, we do product and find the index using the index. So that way we're capturing the product in that index, and it gives us back the JSON. And remember, the JSON has a name on it, so we do that name. So that gives us the name of the product, and we can try to display the price alongside. So let's do the price. So what we want to do is to put a price, so it's going to be in a parenthesis. So we do this plus product the price plus. So now we put in the price in the middle of parentheses. So it's going to display the name parentheses, then covered by parentheses, and it's everything will be displayed in a list. And if you see the way this is going, it's going to keep adding to it. It goes through the list and it keeps adding to this text, and eventually the text can display our text. And how do we display the text? We already know the place where the text should be displayed. If we go back, it's going to be displayed here in the middle of this. So all the list items that we put together, we're going to put it here. And the way to do it is just to come here, we'll grab the name of it. I will do document.get element by ID. I'll put the ID name, the one we just captured, list. The inner HTML equals this text. So we get the element, and we actually using the inner HTML because it's everything we're putting together now is HTML. Then we assign the div text that we put together here in our inner HTML. So let's save that and see how that works first. So I'm going to refresh the screen because we just added some code, and let's add item 1. And I'm going to put the price to be $100. I add it, and nothing is showing on the screen. Why? Well, that's a good question. Let's go see what we did. Now we wrote this function display product, but we didn't call it. So if you didn't call it, it's not going to work. So we come here and add this to this one. So don't forget, when you click from right here, you click, it calls the add product. This is add product. Add product does this. It pushes the value into the array, and it clears the input. Then we can now display the product. Let's save it and see how that works. So item 1, 100, and you see what happens. It's displayed on the screen just like we wanted it, and this one is gone. We can add another item, say good item, and it's just $67, and we add it just like we wanted. It's displaying on the screen. But one thing I would like to change is the value. It's just displaying number. I would like to see it, at least to look like money. We're talking about money here. So how do we do that? I think you can just add a function that is going to do that for us. So let's just add a function that we call function convert to money. And this one takes a number. So whatever number that we want to convert, it takes that number and it's going to return. Don't forget, we can change the number to string by doing num2fixed, and we put it. We talked about this earlier on. So 2fixed, what it does is to change the number to 2 decimal places. So even if you put something in 5 decimal places, it changes it to 2 decimal places, because in monetary terms, we're talking about just 2 decimal places. So if you have 50.123, it just changes it to 50.12. But this is not enough. We want to see our $sign or whatever monetary unit you're using. So you want to put it here. So we can just do I'm using dollars here, so I'm going to put dollar here plus the number. So it converts the number to 2 decimal places and put the dollar sign in front of it. That's what we want. And where do we use this? I'm just going to copy this and paste it here on the price. So what this does is to pass the price into convert to money. So it puts the price here and it comes here and it does all the magic and it returns the value that we want instead of just numbers. So it returns monetary value for us. I'm going to save it and let's go back and see what we get. So refresh the screen, everything is gone. Then we start all over. Item 1 or item 2 to put the price 78, whatever, and we add it. And voila, you see, now we have 789.00. And if we have something like 52.7890, we have it here and we have the product to be item 1 and we add, so it converts just to 70. That's, you know, the magic of the toothpaste. So the next thing we should do now is to display the total amount here. So once you're adding the product, you want to see the total amount. So how do we do that? We just go right here and go back to our display product, because this is going to be the one doing all the display for us. The first thing we want to do is to capture the sum of the amounts. And the sum, we don't know what it is right now. I'm just going to stay right here doing nothing. So I will go write a function that does the calculation for us. So it's going to calculate the value, and I'll call it get product sum. So this is going to do the math for us and give us the sum of the product. So how do we get a sum? Come here to variable sum, just like we did last time, is equal to 0. We're starting from 0 and we go through the list of the product and it adds all the prices together and it gives us the sum. So to do that, we do the for loop for variable I equals 0, I less than product dot length I plus plus, and we do sum plus equals product. We put the index in it, so we're capturing that particular product dot price. So it's going to add this, and the final amount we're going to return, and we have a sum right here. So let's go back, and I'm going to copy this get product sum. So this gives us the sum right here. So we have the sum. The string that we're going to display, let's call it total display. Total display. So this is going to display our total. And right now, let's just put an empty string there. We want to display only when the sum is greater than 0. So we can just do if sum is greater than 0, then total display, will be equal to, we want to put the word total, and we'll put a colon plus the sum. And do not forget, we want to convert this to money. We don't want to just show the number, because this is going to give us only the number. So let's use our method, the one we created, convert to money, and we'll wrap it around this one. So we pass the sum into that, and it converts that to monetary value for us. So now we have this total display, but we are not displaying it yet. So how do we display it? We come here and look at where it's supposed to go. It's going here, and this is a class. Getting a class is different from getting an ID, because this is a class right here. So we're going to use the method or the function called get elements by class name. So I come here, I do document dot get element by class name, and get elements by class name takes the element that you want to get, the class name you're referring to, and the class name is called total. We'll put the total here. So it tries to get all the elements that have this class name. But this is a little different from get element by ID. Because get element by ID gets only one element. In HTML, only one element is supposed to have an ID. So but a class can be used in multiple places. So here what we can do is that since we know that it's just one element, I'm just going to get the first element, because the result comes in an array. So you do get element by class name, it puts all the results in an array. All the elements that match that class name, everything goes in an array. But because we only have one and we want to target that one, so we're going to put 0. So that gives us the first element in that array, which is the one that we want. And we'll do the inner HTML just like we've been doing, and we'll put the total display. And let's save it and see what we get. We come here, refresh the screen, everything is gone, and we'll start all over. I'm doing item 167. I add to the list, and you see my total is $67. If I add another item to it, item 2, and the amount is 48, I add, and it adds it to my total, and everything is, adding up for me the way I wanted it. So the last thing we need to add is the ability to remove these items. Now we are adding them up, we are putting all the items here, but there's no way we can remove them. So we need to put like a little button here or like a link that does remove the item for us. So let's try to do that. And on our display, we are displaying the price. So after the price is displayed, we want to put the element here, the remove link. So we're going to put the remove here, and we're going to put it inside of an anchor tag. So so I will put remove, and here it takes an href. So in JavaScript, anchor tag to do anything, if you don't want it to, once you click on it, you don't want it to just run out and do something else. So you can just put JavaScript with a colon and void. So that way, when you click on it, it doesn't do anything. So it's kind of like a way to disable the link. So now you click on it, the href is supposed to be the address where, the URL where the link goes to. But now we kind of like disable it. It doesn't do anything when we click on it. Let's see what this looks like on the screen. So I'm going to add item, I put 67. So now we have the remove link. We do remove. It doesn't do anything yet because we haven't added any functionality. So just like we've been doing, to do the remove, we're going to put on click here. So when you click, we want something to happen. We want you to be able to remove. And we're going to call the method or the function that runs that. We're going to call it remove item. And here I'm going to pass this to it. So it's going to send me this. So the plan is, once we get this, but one thing we can do is to actually put the index here. I'm going to put the index right here as the ID. So what I'm doing is the index of the array, you're going through the array and it's giving me the index I, and it's going to start from 0, 0 up to the number of elements in the array. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the value of the index in the list. So it's going to be an ID of the list. And now I have the remove item. So one thing I can do to remove items, write a function that does the remove item. Function remove item, and I put E in it. Just that's the element. You remember I'm passing this. So this is the element. That's the element that goes into the function. So now I have the element as E in my function here. So to get the product index, the index of the product, so that we can, if we have the index, we can actually use that to access the array. So I'm going to call a variable product index is equal to e dot parent node. So the parent node, this is A, and it's inside of this list. And you see the way it is structured. So the list here is the parent of this A. So I'm calling E, I'm getting the parent node. The parent node is list, and the list, I'm trying to get the ID on that list, and I can say dot ID. But this index right here is a string, and I want a number, so I can convert that to a number. Just put a number, and so this gives me the index. And how to remove an element from an array, there are many ways you can do that, but I'm going to show you using the splice. So you do product dot splice, then I put a product index, then I tell it to remove just one element. So what splice is doing is, you pass in the index where you want something to happen. You want to remove an element. So, and we already have the index here on the array. So on the array, product dot splice. So that means we're trying to remove from this index and we're saying I want to remove only one element. So we're trying to remove one element from that. And after this is done, we can just say display product. So we do this, we remove the element from the array, and we call display product again. Remember what display product does? It goes to this and start all over again. It starts all the process from scratch. You know, it runs the process, does everything from scratch, and redisplays everything. That's what display product is going to do for you. It redisplays, it changes the inner HTML with the new content. That's what it's going to do, and it changes the total to the new content. So that's what we get here. And we already have on click. We already have on click assigned to remove item, and we're passing this, which is going to come here as an element. We're getting the parent node, the ID of the parent node. We convert that to a number, and we're passing that number to the product, you know, the splice of the product. We're removing that, and we're displaying product again. We're going to save. So what I have here is going to be item 3, and it's going to be 4, 5, 6, and I add it. You see, that's there. I can add another item 5, and the value is 68, and I add it. So I can come here and remove. I can remove any of the items. Say remove this one. I try to remove that, and it's not working. Why is it not working? So one thing you want to do is check your error message and see what you're getting. So we come here, and it says display product is not defined, and it's, you know, we're getting that on line 148. So you want to do this a lot just to, you know, check what you're getting, and that way you can troubleshoot. So we come back, line 148, display product is not defined. So maybe, yeah, there's a typo here. So we can just, the function name is called display product. I think that was a typo. So I'm just going to do display product, remove the S, and save it. And we go to refresh our screen, and we do item 1, 200, and add to the screen. Item 2, 150, add to the screen. And one thing you want to notice, let's go to this list. If you right click on this particular list and do inspect element, it takes you right to that element. And what I was telling you, you see the ID is starting from 0, and the ID of the second one is 1. So we're using that to actually track, you know, the index of the array. So 0 and 1. The next one is going to be, if you add another one to it, do item 3 and put a value 98. And if you go back to that, you see the ID of that, the first one is 0, ID of the second one is 1, and third one is 2. So if we come here and do, I want to remove second element, I do remove, and you see item 2 is gone, and our value is reduced to this amount. I can remove the 200, and we have 98 as the value. So that is how this works. You enter value from here, and if you enter a wrong number, like something that is not a valid number, it tells you you have an error, and it clears the, you know, the input box, and you can type in another value, say 456, and you add it. You know, type orange, and the value is 48. You add it, everything is added, and you can remove everything. You remove that, and you remove that. Nothing is displayed, just the way we planned it. So this brings us to the end of this lesson, and I believe you had a good time. So next lesson is going to be about jQuery, you know, doing like the same things we did today using jQuery, and now come up with a, you know, similar example to interact with the DOM, you know, get your values from your HTML and display on your HTML. I believe it's going to be a good time as well. Well, I hope to see you around for that. Have a good one. Bye.